Now, when we heard the news that Saab had closed down, Jeremy and I were genuinely very sad. Although we weren't actually sure why, so we went to investigate.
Saab began as an aeroplane maker, but after the Second World War it noticed that demand for fighter planes had dropped off dramatically. So it decided to start making cars as well. The first effort was created by two men, one who designed wings and one who designed bomb racks. Neither had done a car before, and it kind of showed. Their prototype had enclosed front wheels, which was very aerodynamic. But as you drove along in winter, snow would build up in the arches, and it was only when you got to a corner you noticed the steering had jammed. There were other issues too. The rear window was tiny, and there was no boot lid. Mass production wasn't their bag either. While Austin made a car every 27 seconds, it took Saab 27 minutes. Oh, and all their cars were painted green.
So, a green car with no boot you could use, and in bad weather, no steering. But the biggest problem in those early days was the engine, as James shall now explain.
This is the 92. It was Saab's first production car, and it came with a thirsty two-stroke engine that produced just 25 horsepower.
The real problem, however, is that the engine was only lubricated when you had your foot on the throttle. Because in a two-stroke, the engine oil is mixed with the fuel. So if there's no fuel going in, there's no oil going in. Now, this wasn't an issue when you were driving along on the level like this or going up a hill, because you always had your foot on the throttle and you always had the fuel and oil going in. However, once you were going downhill like this, you had a problem because you had to brake with your left foot, but whoa, keep the power on a bit with your right foot so that the engine still got some oil. Whoa, this is very tricky. And it's stupid. I'm driving and stopping at the same time. And then, of course, you'd arrive at the bottom of the hill with your brakes completely boiled over, and your 65-mile-an-hour Saab would be absolutely unable to stop. It's hopeless.
Saab's history is littered with terrible mistakes like this. There was the 900 convertible, which was as rigid as a week-old salad. There was the Sonnet, which was supposed to have been a sports car, but wasn't. And then in 1992, they even made a car with no steering wheel.
In actual fact, the more you drive this, the easier it becomes. The temptation is to just stare at the end of the bonnet in wonderment that you can actually have any directional control at all.
So, lots of Swedish strangeness and an advertising campaign that didn't make much sense either.
Only one aircraft manufacturer makes cars. Sierra, Alpha, Alpha, Bravo.
Yes, Saab loved to remind us that their cars came from a company that made jet fighters. But it was nonsense. This jet fighter, for example, had an engine made by Volvo.
Saab. It's a pity other cars aren't built this way.
The idea was that you were buying a jet fighter for...
So, James, you have a pilot's license, and I believe you've been in a Typhoon fighter aircraft.
Yes.
Is there anything in here that puts you in mind of that plane?
No.
Or nothing?
No.
Is the key down here on a Typhoon?
No.
Do you have to lock the Typhoon in reverse before you can take the key out?
No, it doesn't have reverse as such.
It has reverse thrust.
Yeah, but it doesn't have a reverse gear. It doesn't have a key, actually.
It doesn't have a key or reverse. So this is really not the same. However, it does have a night panel button here. Now, if I push this, it shuts down all the dials apart from the speedo. Now, I can see that this would be useful if you were in an F-14 over the Pacific looking for the landing lights on your aircraft carrier. But on the A38, just outside Derby, why would you want that?
No. Yeah, I always used to worry that actually it was all just broken anyway. I mean, how'd you know?
I must say, I went in an F-15 once.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Very, very different, because nothing in here is covered in sick.
Even after Saab was taken over by General Motors in the late 80s, their marketing men kept at it.
Breathtaking acceleration.
Here we have an F-22 Raptor, not built by Saab, being used to advertise what is basically the Vauxhall Cavalier.
Saab, pure driving pleasure.
So, Saab, checkered history, bonkers advertising, and lots of harebrained ideas. But for every idea they had that didn't work, they had another which did. Often, brilliantly.
And one of the most brilliant ideas of them all was this. The 99 Turbo.
Now, Saab weren't the first to turbocharge a car. I think that was Chevrolet, and then there was BMW and Porsche. But they were the first to put a turbocharger on a sort of mainstream car, which was this.
It was thanks to this car that everything in the 80s went turbo crazy.
The word turbo, as a result, came to just mean anything that was really good.
Oh, it did,
Like I had a turbo vacuum cleaner, which was sort of fair enough, but a mate of mine had some turbo sunglasses, and it actually said it on the lens, turbo.
Turbo. Ooh, they're good.
You also got turbo razors, do you remember that?
Turbo aftershave.
Did you?
Yeah, yes, well, I didn't, because I don't wear aftershave because I'm not from Cheshire. But
There was more too, because you could even buy your turbo with water injection.
I don't understand that.
Well, I could explain it to you, but you're not interested.
No, I am interested.
You're not. Are you really interested?
I am interested.
Okay, water injection in the inlet cools the charge and makes it denser. It's the job that was later
I'm
done
not
by the
interested.
intercooler.
All we need to know is that with water injection, this turbocharged pocket rocket could get from 0 to 60 in 8 seconds. That's quick even by today's standards.
It accelerates faster than a Mini Cooper, modern Mini Cooper,
Yeah.
and a Renault Sport Twingo 133. This is a fast car. I mean,
Wait!
it is quick.